There seems to be this perception that Oleksandr Usyk is not the same fighter as a heavyweight as he was as a cruiserweight. What do you think to that?
Yeah, of course he's not. Because he can't do what because he's not an imposing figure as he was as a cruiserweight. That's just how it goes. That's understandable. No, see, Holyfield was still the same fighter because he boxed the same way, but he was always on you, right in your face. And Usyk's a bit more guile. Holyfield's the better fighter for me by far, but he's been more guile to his work. So he's an imposing figure, but it's a mirage for him because he's on you, but he's not on you. And it's all with that front foot. So you see with Usyk, he dips a lot. But when he dips, he goes low. I got to stand up and show you. When he goes low, but that front foot slides forward, he gets a wider stance. So he goes low, and he just steals a bit of space with that front foot. So when he comes back up, he's 3 inches, 4 inches, 6 inches closer to you. And you panic, and he'll dip low again, and you move back, and he puts you under pressure that way. So even if he's not throwing punches, you're panicking inside. Even if you're not major panic, you're having to adjust, you're worrying. So rather than you thinking about what you're going to do, you're always, even when you're trying to be aggressive, you're always reacting to his movements, which is when you're reacting, it's hard to regulate your breathing, as if when you're on top and you know what you're going to do, you can go, and you're ready to work or whatever it is. But when you don't know what's happening, you're always like this with the breath, and that's what tires you out. The belly will tell you more than anyone, of course, that he was blown out of his ass after 6 rounds. It seemed like he was doing okay. And because he was trying to be competitive, and he landed a few shots, but actually, with Usyk, he's always thinking all the time. He plays the long game in a fight. He don't think about the first. If he can knock you out, he will, but he don't care almost. He's not losing rounds, by the way. Sometimes he'll lose the odd round. He's not losing rounds, but he's not massively dominating rounds. He's just making you work harder than you want to work all the time for every second when he's doing nothing, but pretending he's on top of you, making you feel the pressure without there being any pressure there. And then when you do make a mistake, he picks you off.
Those early rounds, you make a good point there. Obviously, the Tony Bellew fight, the Derek Chisora fight, getting that front foot in between the front foot of his opposition, making them work without really doing too much. There seems to, again, be this perception that Usyk is a slow starter. Having said that, I know you don't agree, but having said that, Anthony Joshua, those early rounds, is it important? If so, how important is it for him to make him feel the heavyweight punching power early in the fight?
With anything you have, whether it's speed, intelligence, good looks like I had, but you have to. I know I can't help myself, but if it's power, especially power, you make him feel it. I never had power, but you make him feel it early. So you go out and you whack him. Nicky Piper could punch. Remember Nicky Piper from the 90s? Good fighter, world title challenger. He had a really good right hand. So he used to walk out, and every time he'd throw that right hand first. And he got the fastest knockout in the world for a little while. It was like 10.3 seconds or something silly like that, or 11 seconds. But, but that was it. But if he didn't knock you out, you felt it. And I think Golovkin does it. He hits you anywhere. Canelo does it. He hits you on the arms. You feel the power. And I think for Joshua, it's the solid jab. I think, I look at the Braders fight. I know it's a smaller guy. But I look at that, and I think, if I'm in my memory, my memory, I look at that and I think he had more trouble with him, possibly, than most, and it was because of the front feet. So Bradis was really, with a southpaw, you always say, get your front, as an orthodox fighter against a southpaw, you get your left foot on the outside of his right foot, because then your jab's coming over the top, and then you're in control of the space. That's what theoretically. And also, he has to turn to throw his backhand, which would be his left hand. His jab comes inside yours. So when he turns, he's lined up for your right hand, your backhand there, your right hand. And that's how you get him. So you're over the top. Southpaws do it to orthodox fighters more naturally because they're used to boxing them all the time. So their foot's on the outside and they do it that way. He did that, Bradis. He was always trying to slide in to the left. So always his foot on the outside, always to get that line that right hand up, get that jab over the top as well. And I think for Joshua, the jab is very important for him. Hit him on the chest. All this movement and the high guard is good. The gloves are high. He's hard to hit clean. Usyk, even when you hit him, he sort of takes the sting out with the gloves. Aim for the chest. There's a gap there. The gloves stop here. If you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, the gloves stop just about halfway on the forearms. There's a gap there that you can aim for the chest. And that aim for the chest will knock him off balance. And that, if you be honest, it all boils down to that for me. I think, the way Usyk fights, he slides back and forth and he's hard to hit clean, but ultimately he blocks a lot of shots, and then just keeps It's nicking your space, stealing your space, and making you panic. Now, if Joshua's jab, and if to get the foot on the outside to get that weight on the jab, can push him back, then Usyk can't be as effective. And he has to box a different way. And that helps Joshua. Because then what Usyk's strength is in making you blow at your backside after halfway is no longer there. He has to go back to the dancing and moving. And then you got to put pressure on him. And again, it's educated pressure. It's not Chisora pressure, following around the ring, swinging like a lunatic, hoping you catch him. No, which, you know, and if he does, you're in trouble. It's cutting the ring off. Again, cutting the ring off against Usyk, as we've seen as an amateur, is a very difficult thing to do. But again, you're taking the initiative away from him. And I think that's important. So that if Joshua hits him with a solid shot, especially a jab, and it's a good jab, and it doesn't push Usyk back, then I'm changing my mind about who I think is going to win the fight. Pretty much. I think then Usyk has massive control. If he can block it and still slide that front foot forward, I can't see how Joshua, unless he hits him with a great shot and knocks him out, I can't see how he wins. But if he can use that jab smartly, if he can get that foot on the outside, and if he can just stop Usyk in his tracks and make him feel the power early, this is what you pretty much asked, and I've babbled on, but make him feel the power early and make him have to readjust what he's doing, then I think Joshua has a great chance.
It sort of reminds me, like, when we talk about that point of making him feel the power early and keeping him on the outside, another fight that we broke down, spectacularly wrong, by the way, was Vasily Lomachenko versus Teofimo Lopez. Yeah. Sort of similar parallels to that fight in that regard.
But Usyk doesn't box really like Lomachenko.
No. Again, there's this perception that he's a big version of Lomachenko, or Lomachenko's a smaller version of him.
What he does, like a lot of, I box him like Ukrainians. I won Ukrainian, he stood me on my head. But in the European final, actually, as it goes, but he doubled my score. And it's just, anyway, it's not about my sad story in my career, but they spin on the target. They're in front of you, they throw a shot or two shots or three shots, and then they're almost behind you. That pivot. I love it. It's my favorite word in the dictionary, pivot. But they do it better than most. That's what I learned it from. Where did you get there? And they do it better, and obviously Usyk does it really well. Lomachenko has different slight movement. His feet move faster, and there's more mechanics to his movement, I feel. Usyk really, hands are high always, and he sways back and forth, and he dips low, and he pivots quite well, but he does more blocking, I think, because he's a bigger guy. The movements, he doesn't have to move as much, because even the light shots, you feel him. That's the thing with bigger guys. No, we always say the smaller guys. I love a smaller guy. Is technically better. But we don't have that natural strength. Now, even guys who can't punch as a heavyweight and cruiserweights can hurt you. Or not deemed as punchers. Everyone can punch. That's the problem you have there. So Usyk doesn't load up with his shots and rides off combinations, but you feel him. You must feel him. Because he's a 14 stone or now maybe a 16, 15 and a half stone guy, maybe for this fight. So you'll feel that shot. How can you not? And that's the difference.